What's up, everybody? This is episode 86 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to everybody that's been supporting us thus far. For those who haven't seen any of my episodes, go check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. And before we start, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors, the Players Circle. They're a brand new app that's all about the basketball community, all about the youth. Go check it out on the App Store for those who have iPhones. An Android version will be coming soon. But right now, we have a very special guest in the building tonight. He's an accomplished coach, was on St. Raymond's first ever city championship team in 1991, led the nation Division II basketball in assists at almost 9 per game at Pitt-Johnstown, was a longtime coach of the New York Gauchos, and coached at colleges such as Marist College, Xavier University, University of Arizona, and now he's back and doing big things for the community. I give you tonight Mr. Emmanuel Book Richardson. Book,
That was
thank
a hell
you.
of an intro. Hey, Dave, that was one of the best intros I ever got in my life, so I may need you as like a PR guy.
Indeed. Book, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you being here.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for dealing with the technical difficulties. Like I said, it's been really good for me.
Indeed. So my very first question is, what's Emmanuel Book Richardson's coaching philosophy?
Coaching philosophy is to make sure that you have an opportunity to develop talent, but also make sure that you can. I think I don't want to be politically correct aside from developing talent, but making sure that you can identify talent that can be developed and taking it from start to finish. I think a lot of coaches sometimes get infatuated with just pure talent, and sometimes finding that kid, not even a diamond in the rough, but just finding a kid who's talented, but putting him in a situation where he can prosper and where he can develop at his own pace.
Well said. So let's start from the very beginning. When did basketball first start for you?
That's that's an incredible question. A very long time ago, I think maybe 7 or 8, maybe 9, 10 in that area. I'm one of those kids that was raised in the 80s, and we played multiple sports. We played football, baseball, basketball, and especially being from New York City, football didn't kind of kick in for us because, like I said, that just wasn't the thing. So I was fortunate to have a family members, Tariq and Gary Campbell, Jubal Oldham, who took me under their wing, and whatever they did, I did. And I followed them playing basketball. And then, like I said, I remember playing in Milbank when I was 10 with Coach Tommy Swinton playing small fry. So it was one of those things where, you fell in love with it. And at 47, I'm still in love with it.
So shout outs to Tommy Swinton, by the way, a trailblazer in many organizations. But so talk about growing up in Harlem and what was the basketball culture like out there?
Growing up in Harlem, like I said, moved around so many different places, man. And the basketball culture was one of the biggest in the city because, at that time you competed. You had to compete to play. If you didn't compete, you weren't going to play. And basketball was outside a lot. So, whether it was a park, if you wanted to get on the court, you were going to have to play hard and you had to win. And if you were the young guy, you had to make sure that you added value to the game. And the older guys kind of taught you how to play. They taught you what was a good shot. They taught you what was a hard play. They taught you what was an open shot. And that was the culture of basketball. I think like right now, you play a lot of basketball, whereas us, when you weren't outside, then when it got cold, you went inside. Now it's kind of guys are always in the gym. So, the culture at that time, you played really hard. You had the adults. You may have had a guy who was 30 years old, who was maybe a teacher, or you may have had a guy who was down on his luck, who, played pickup basketball, but you learn from those guys.
So you were born to a very young mother. You know,
Yeah.
talk about being the child of a teenage parent. How how tough was it growing up?
It was really difficult because my mom had me at 15, and she did her best job to raise a boy in the jungle. She did everything she could do, and I love her. And she gave me everything she had. But what happened, especially in that time, it was a very distinct time. And in Harlem, in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and 5 boroughs, it was ravaged by drugs. And my mother did everything she could to protect me from that. And it wasn't always the easiest dealing with me. So, my mom, it was sometimes growing up with your sister, but it was sometimes, growing up, and she had to be stern, and she had to, at times it got a little violent, because guess what? She was trying to keep me from the streets, because I always had an adoration for it. I always wanted to see, where it led to. So my mother had to fight against that. And like I said, she did everything she could do. And I think she did a hell of a job, for me to get to where I got to.
Yeah, man, that's big. Shout outs to moms, man. So as a youth, you said that you moved around a lot. So talk about some of the places that you lived in.
I've lived in Piedmont, Alabama. I've lived in Harlem on 102nd Street in Douglas Projects. I've lived in St. Nicholas Projects. I've lived in Drew Hamilton Projects. I've lived 149th Street between 7th and 8th. I've lived in Grant Projects, 1315 Amsterdam, and 55 LaSalle. I've lived in Yonkers. I've lived in Brooklyn. I was born in Queens. Only place I didn't live was Staten Island. So,
damn, you moved around a lot.
Moved around a lot.
Yeah, man.
117th Street. 117th Street between Lenox and 7th as well.
That was the main headquarters for you, right?
That's where I think that's the first place we moved in Harlem. And then, like I said, you just, I lived on 108th Street between 5th and Madison as well. Mm-hmm. Then I lived 138th Street in Madison, 138th between 5th and Madison. So moved around a little bit.
Yeah, man. So as a kid, what tournaments did you like playing in?
Citywide was great for me, man. Boys of yesteryear. Small fry was dope because, again, it was 5 foot 1 and under, and Jerry McCullum and myself were the 4 and the 5 men dunking on 8 foot rims. So it was pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool.
Wow. So as a youth, I think you played for Riverside from middle school on up to high school.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing, Dave, because I've been the director of the Gauchos. This is my second time, but I played my whole life. In 13 from 13 to 13 on, I played Riverside, and before that, it was TS Bucks. So it's the weirdest thing when old Gaucho guys, they start talking and and it's like I try to keep quiet, man, because they're always looking like Book. You remember those battles? I'm like, nah, I try to stay out of it, but.
Wow.
I play Riverside Church, man.
Boy, let's go back into TS Bucks a little bit. So talk about what it was like playing for Tommy when he had his own program.
I'm telling you, it's still Coach was fiery, but I think now, when he had his own program, we didn't look at him any differently. It was TS Bucks, and we played against Gauchos, we played against Riverside, so. It was just one of those things where we competed. You played in PAL. You played against the Sun Devils. You played against, and then I think with Young Life happened. But when Coach had the TS Bucks, we thought we were invincible. I want to say we went on a span of like 2 years where we didn't lose. But that's biddies and super biddies, and then you get the midgets. So. That was it. That was the classifications. Then super biddies, midgets, juniors, seniors, then unlimited.
Mm-hmm. And then midgets was spent with Riverside.
Yeah, Mr. Edwards.
So
Mr. Edwards.
I know you had your share of jackets from them and gear.
It was a competition, man. Gauchos and Riverside bags. I remember having that travel uniform, and it was one of those things, man, where it was like a badge of honor, because when you got the Riverside Church travel uniform, you know, you were elite because it wasn't 50 kids with it. And same thing when you had that Gaucho bag, when you had that Riverside Church bag, 100 people didn't have it. You were elite. You know, they didn't give that bag to anyone. So, you know, it was one of those it was a badge of courage. It was a badge of honor that you earned something. And I think that's kind of what we've lost in translation, that everyone gets a trophy now. And, you know, everyone gets a bag because they participated. And I get it and I understand it. But sometimes it doesn't help us in terms of trying to make these kids compete.
Yeah, man. It's too many teams. Back in the day, it was only but so few, which made the people compete harder. But now it's teams up and down the street. It seems like on every corner there's an AAU team now.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge issue. You know, I understand, Dave, that some people, you know, we want to help the kids and you want to give every kid an opportunity. I think what we've lost, again, in translation, is making them compete and earning. You know, a lot of times, hey, you can just get on a team and go to Vegas. Well, Vegas used to be special. Well, now it's 50 tournaments there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm all for giving the kid an opportunity, and I'm all for, you know, the underdog getting an opportunity. But I've always said, like, you got to make sure you compete, because things become so watered down. And now it's kind of like, hey, well, I participated, so I deserve something. No, you don't deserve anything for participating.
Yeah. No, I feel that, man. So St. Ray's, let's talk about how St. Ray's came into your life.
Was supposed to go to St. Nicholas to Talentine. Terrence Rencher and myself, we went to the Archdiocese game at Mount St. Michael's, Talentine versus St. Ray's, and St. Ray's won. Eddie Rivera was probably the best point guard who I'd seen, and with my own two eyes, and they beat him. And him, Chucky Martin, Mike Thompson, Ephraim DeJesus, those guys, they were awesome that night. And I remember looking at Terrence, and Terrence looking at me and saying, I guess we want to go to St. Raymond's. And it was like that. I didn't know where St. Raymond's was, and I think T did. But it was like, we liked the colors, orange and blue. And I also think going to Talentine, talking about competing, you know, you compete every day. And that's not a bad deal, but I think part of it, you got to go someplace where you can play. And I'm not sure if I was good enough to play at Talentine. You know, maybe my peers say yes, maybe some say no. But I think the significance of going to St. Raymond's and going someplace where the ball, I had an opportunity to play early and often. And as a freshman, you know, it was awesome. You know, we lost in the city championship to Malloy. And then, you know what, Terrence and I was moved up to varsity. So it was one of those things where, you know, we were thrown into the fire, and, you know, you get to watch Kenny Anderson as a junior, and it was like, wow. So, you know, my time at St. Raymond's was weird, because I was still a kid from Clay Avenue in the Bronx. I was still a mischievous kid. I was still a kid that kind of tried, push the envelope a little bit. So, you know, Coach DeCease and I kind of didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But I'm glad that those guys stuck with me. I'm glad Tom Moon shot. I'm glad Orlando Antigua. I'm glad Terrence Rencher. I'm glad Trevor Reffram, Danny Basile, Damon Bonaparte, Tyler Brown, you know, Frank Terrell. I'm glad all those guys, you know, Aljamain Durham, Charles Clark, Kareem Reed, like those guys stuck with me. Even the younger guys who I didn't have an opportunity to hoop with, they stuck with me. And that means Dana Dingle, you know, Kendall Donaldson. I try to name them all because I know they were a huge part of me staying at St. Raymond's and getting through.
Wow. So before we go into the later years at St. Ray's, let's talk about the freshman year. How was it getting adjusted to an all-boys school after being in a co-ed situation all your life?
It was, you know what, at the time, it was small. You know, the girls' school was up the block. You got to focus a little bit because, like I said, you weren't chasing the prettiest girl in science class or the prettiest girl in history or social studies. What you were doing was, you were locking in and you were getting better. I wish we did have girls now in hindsight, because it would have taught me how to date. It would have taught me how to, be around girls. And but I know, I was as focused as I could have been.
Yeah, I mean, you guys could do whatever you wanted at 3:00.
We did. Some people didn't realize, like St. Raymond's, as disciplined as we were, you had, again, you still had young kids. You had guys that were, again, I was trying to figure out life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these kids in Catholic schools they not little angels at all. Trust me. They're not. They not. But
I was one of those guys.
Yeah. Nah, but yeah, your freshman year, you guys played Malloy in the championship game. And another guest on my podcast, Jason Gilliam Alexander, he always talks about that game when they beat y'all. Talk about that actual game at Fordham University.
Jason was tough to deal with. Him, Jason Frazier, those guys were tough to deal with, and they were really good guards. And it was really good for us, because you had an opportunity to see what the city had to offer. And, like I said, that game was opened our eyes in terms of how hard you had to play. How hard you had to play, what you had to do to be successful. And I'm glad we played those guys, because they were the best in the city. And you know what? They earned it. They earned the right to be freshman city champions. And I, to this day, I think the world of Jason, through his career, through college. Again, Frazier, I think, wanted to, transfer out of Malloy and went to Miami. But, we had an opportunity to be tested, and that's what this is about. We had to compete. We had to earn everything we got. And that was a part of the process.
So, he also said that he thinks had he stayed in the city his senior year, that they would have beaten y'all.
No shot.
Jason, if you ever hear this, these are Book's words. So your sophomore year, you and T. Wrench all got promoted to varsity. Talk about that experience.
It was the best ass kicking that we ever got, because we had to be humble. Again, we both of us averaged about 20 a game in freshman, and it was like, oh, well, we're gonna do the same thing, not realizing like, hey, you now have to compete at another level. And I'm glad that we did play freshman, where we got our feet wet and we understood what it was to compete, to play. We had confidence. So when we played varsity, again, the size strength of the athlete changed for us. But it was, we had an under 500 season. I think we were 10 and 15. And it was awesome for us, because it taught us what it was to compete, right? You can practice all you want, but we started as sophomores. And that's why I said to Jason, like, the rise that we were on, it was set up for us to do that. We tasted success as a freshman. And then as sophomores, we were humbled. We went 10 and 15. So it set us up for our junior year, where it was like, at one point, we had beat Talentine, All Hallows, and Hayes in 1 week. And at that point, just think about it. There were 5 McDonald's All-Americans. There were Adrian Autry, Brian Reese. You had Jamal Mashburn, who was New York State Player of the Year that year, his senior year. Yeah. And All Hallows had Cookie Williams, Dexter Dunbar. I don't know if Collins had played that year, but I mean, it was like, you talk about the talent. And we lose in our junior year, we lose in the quarterfinals to Christ the King. Jamal Faulkner, Arizona State. Khalid Reeves, McDonald's All-American, Arizona. Derek Phelps, McDonald's All-American, Carolina.
Yeah. So, what was it like, playing for the Caesar throughout the 4 years?
Charnel Scott, sorry.
Oh, yeah, St. John's. Yeah, so what was it like dealing with the Caesar throughout the whole 4 years?
I laugh now because I'm a coach. I was probably one of the most difficult kids to deal with ever. But like, he stuck with me, and again, Garrett, coach was young, man. So he was actually, I think, the youngest high school head coach, or one of the youngest. So to deal with a kid from Clay Avenue, man, I'm not sure if that's we had such a love-hate relationship, but he held me accountable. He made me responsible. I'm part of the reason I coach is because of him. And at the time, I couldn't see that because I wanted to fight him on everything he said. But again, it worked itself out. It worked itself out, and I'm blessed to have played for him.
Now, Clay Avenue. Let's talk about that street. Like, you always talked about Clay Avenue as the belly of the beast. Like, how rough was it back then?
You know, I never want to say one block's tougher, one block's rougher than the other. I would just say when you dealt with Clay Avenue, you know, it was really a two-fare zone, right? You know, you got to take, if you're taking a bus, you know, you take the bus to the D train, or you can walk, but it's a little walk. You know, you take the 35 to the D train or the 4 train. But again, like I said, man, you saw a lot of things there. You know, you saw a lot of destruction. You saw a lot of corruption. You saw a lot of broken things, but you also saw a little bit of unity. You know, I lost 2 of my really good friends to gun violence, and you became numb to it. And, you know, I also lost another friend who's, you know, he's in jail for the rest of his life. You know, so that block is synonymous with you know, with destruction. So, you know, again, growing up, I was just the average kid in the Bronx trying to grow up in the jungle because, again, truly the belly of the beast, you know, the Marist Senior section, you know, the southern section of the Bronx, you know, and just understanding, like, what it was, because a lot of the times, man, you just wanted to, you were trying to survive.
Yeah. No different from where I live at. You know how crazy Beekman always was. It's calmed down a lot, but it's still the hood. No matter how many houses they try to build in this neighborhood, it's always going to be the hood. Again,
Cypress, you know, with my brother's barbershop. You know, again, I get it. Soundview, you know, like I said, that I get it. You know, again, my aunt 820 Boynton, like all those areas over there, you know, I get it, and I respect, you know, I respect the culture, I respect the people, you know, so that's why I'm like, no, I can't say one block is rougher or tougher. It's just, you know, again, Terrence Rencher, Longfellow, Whole Avenue, you know, those sections, man, they're real.
Yeah. So your senior year, the magical season.
Magical season.
Talk about it.
One of the best seasons, you know, I think at one point we were number 2 in the country before Danny Hurley and St. Anthony steamrolled us, and Danny Hurley personally bust my ass.
So camp, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, he got me in camp, but he also got me in San Diego. Like, he punished me. He may have had 20 in the first half. And I always talk about that because that's real. You know, for any success, you got to talk, you know, you have to talk about, you know, the situations that were unsuccessful. So, but that year was so special because it was set up for us to win just because of all the adversity we've been through. We were 3-year starters at varsity. That was unprecedented in New York City. And we grew up together. You know, we got Orlando as a sophomore. And, you know, we had Carl Green. We had Linwood McGreer. And then we lose Lamb going into his senior year because of, you know, age requirement. And Dana Dingle, he grew up. Danny Basile grew up. Trevor Redfern, those guys grew up. Kendall Donaldson, Frank Terrell, Danny Basile, they grew up. Damon Bonaparte was a sophomore. Tyler Brown was a sophomore. So you start to say, like, the talent that you had, the Division I players on that team, it was immense. So it was, again, you talk about one of the best teams I think that the city has seen, just in terms of balance, was that team. And to beat Lockland in the city championship, I'm telling you, it was the best feeling in the world. And I think that we overappreciated the city championship because we had nothing left in the tank to play in the States. You know, we lost to Mount Vernon in the State Federation, and kind of was like, damn, it was a letdown. Because no one talked about the States, but it was like it's a big thing because Mount Vernon kicked our ass.
Yeah.
You know, Rasul Salhoudin, Colin Johnson, Dave Jean Ming, Dean Marshman, Brian Pritchard, like, you know, why am I forgetting? Dana Doggett, like, they kicked our ass. So that magical year, man, we always talk about, I think we were 25-3, but, you know, we won in Hawaii. You know, think about this as seniors. We went to Hawaii, Missouri, San Diego. You know, we played Manhattan Center in the Gauchos gym. I think that year. You know, you think about the things we did, and it's like, wow, that was an incredible year.
Yeah, you guys got to travel early in the season, I think, and because of that, I think the CHSAA tried to make some rules about
The St.
that.
Raymond's rule.
Wow.
St. Raymond's rule. My junior year, we went to Missouri, Alaska, and Alabama. My senior year, we go to Hawaii, Missouri, and San Diego.
Yeah. And you guys didn't play until January in New York or something like that?
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, they couldn't take it, basically.
No, they couldn't. And then, like I said, then Rice carried on the tradition with traveling. So, just one of those things.
So, talk about the same Rays gear back in the day, because it seems like all the alums, they talk about how, about the gear. How special was the gear to you guys?
It was like, again, like I said, my junior and senior year, we were Nike, we were like a Nike elite high school. Guys like Tony Dorado, who's still at Nike now, he was great to us, but we earned it. We won. And I think they saw the big picture in terms of how good we could be, how successful we were.
Wow, Tony Dorado, he's been around that long?
I think Tony, like I said, Tony's been around for a while, man.
Wow.
And then, like I said, part of it, having a relationship with Sonny Vaccaro, and Coach DeCesar, putting us in the forefront of just having really good gear, man. And I think that's what kind of started the gear wars, if you want to say that. But there was nothing we didn't have, man. There was nothing we didn't have.
Now, graduation, May 1991. How did you feel just, to get your diploma at St. Ray's Church, being able to graduate high school after everything that you've gone through in life?
We was actually in St. Pat's Cathedral, and I never thought I'd graduate.
Oh, wow.
I never thought that. It was just one of those things where it happens. It like, I never envisioned the day, because that kind of wasn't a goal. It was like it's a foregone conclusion. And I think that's something that I always thought early, like, damn, I would see people that got bigger celebrations for coming home from jail versus, graduating. But as I got older, I understood why. I understand why. Like, that's when someone comes home, man, to be displaced is weird. So, you go through the motions, and it's like, I graduated. I was happy, but okay. It was kind of like a foregone conclusion.
Shout outs to the St. Ray's class of 1991. Yeah, my brother's going to be graduating from St. Patrick's Cathedral in the next 4 years. He's up the block. He's at Hayes now, but I can't wait to see him in that black cap and gown.
Yeah, that's what it's about, man. Those are the things I think we sometimes overlook, and it's a huge accomplishment, and we don't look at it as such.
Right.
And like, we don't look at it like, oh, graduation, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. High school prom, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
College graduation, that's a big deal. And we don't look at it. We don't treat it as such. It's a huge deal.
I'm glad you said that, book, because this year, kids nationwide didn't get to have any of that. No proms. And if they did have graduations, it was like later on during the summer. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, a lot of kids didn't get that experience this year, which is sad. But, So yeah, how was your recruitment in high school?
It was weird, man, because Gary, Coach DeCesar, he I probably thought I was better than I was. I wanted to go to Cincinnati. I remember Anthony Buford seeing me, and he was a player at Cincinnati. He coached me in 5-star, and he was like, "Man, you should come to Cincinnati. You're really good." And Coach was like, "You're not good enough to play there." He said, "You can't play there."
He shut you down.
Yeah, and I was like, but the guard said, he was like, "No, you're not good enough. They recruit junior college guards. They'll recruit over you."
Mm-hmm.
And my recruitment was funny because at that time, you got a lot of letters, but it was, I probably should have went to Hofstra, Coach Van Bredikoff, or Wagner. But like I'm just telling you, my recruitment was weird. Then Hawaii came in.
Yeah, I saw that clipping.
And I wanted to go to Hawaii, but then he said, you're seeing this right now. Can you go here and be here for a while? And I was like, damn, I don't know. And I was suspended. Like I got suspended every single year I was at St. Raymond. So I remember, Hawaii coach come to see me play, and I was suspended. So that.
Damn, you was a rebel like that?
I just was trying to figure some stuff out.
Yo. So you wound up at Florida Atlantic. Talk about that year there.
Weird experience, man. Coach Loomis, Coach Dave Pilipovich, who was the assistant coach, took care of me, man. Like, that's kind of another reason why I coach and I took care of kids, because what he did for me, I was the first time I stayed away from home. I went to school with a book bag, money in my pocket, and that was kind of it. I didn't know what I needed. So Coach Pilipovich took care of me, man. And I dealt with Tim Loomis, and it was like he was a coach that he tried to break you. And I never understood that mentality. Like, you're trying to break this kid from New York City, and I'm already broken.
Mm.
So, and I got into trouble there. So anything that Coach Loomis probably gave me later on, I deserved. But, what I needed was, I didn't need a kick in the ass. I needed a hug.
Yeah. And some coaches, they don't know how to handle certain kids.
Yeah, I mean, the violence, I was good. The discipline, I was good. The punishment, I was good. I've been punished all my life, so I was okay.
Yeah. So after FAU, so you did the JUCO route.
Yeah, I was at Farmingdale for like about a month.
Ooh.
Maybe less than that. Then that didn't work. And then I was off a little bit. And then I went to Monroe, and I got my life back together. Again, I think that was the time in my life where President Jerome, Dean Greenberg, Roberta Greenberg, Kathy Murphy, Dr. Ephraim, they took care of me, because they treated me as if I was a student. They didn't care about me playing basketball. And then, Steve DeMayo, who's now at St. John's, coached me. And like I said, we were number one in the country for a while. And, like I said, man, you talk about great teammates, Dwayne Core, Robert Spud Hoffler, John McCord, Andre Penny, man. Those guys were incredible. And like I said, you go 28-3 in JUCO. So I grew up, and I had a different appreciation for life. I had a different appreciation for basketball. And, then you go to Pitt-Johnstown, Division II spot. And, again, I was like, hey, my clock had ticked. And that was what was best for me, because before I was caught up on, I'm a Division I basketball player. I'm a Division I basketball player. Right. And it was like, I didn't care about that anymore. I wanted to go someplace where I could win my last 2 years. And we won 45 games our last 2 years. I was a Division II, All-American. And I led the nation in assists 2 years in a row. I was like top 2 or 3 in steals. And, you go to 2 Division II tournaments. That school had never been to a tournament. Wow. So you inducted into that school's, Pitt-Johnstown Hall of Fame. And it meant a lot. As I look back on it now, I never showed up to get to be inducted. But knowing what I know now, I wish I'd have showed up, because it's, again, everyone doesn't get inducted to their school's Hall of Fame.
So if you was to go there right now, they have your all your stuff on there, all your accomplishments, banners, and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yo, you gotta go back to UPJ, man.
Yeah, I know. Because like I said, my college coach there was awesome. Still is awesome. I consider him my dad, Bob Rukavina. And then I got an assistant coach, Al Madrzejewski, who just, like I said, those guys took care of me.
Yeah.
They took care of me.
Shout outs to the Pitt-Johnstown class of 1998.
Yeah.
So after that, talk about the numerous odd jobs that you did, or numerous jobs that you did after college.
I taught second grade. I did investment banking. What else? I worked as a maintenance man in St. Raymond's. What else did I do? I did a couple other things. I probably shouldn't say it on air, but I did a couple.
It's all right. Yeah, you good.
but that was that, man. And you know, but it always came back to basketball. You know, I actually watched the towers fall. You know, I watched the second tower get hit. You know, I was working in Metro Tech, three Metro Tech.
Mm.
It was like a movie.
Yeah, I remember that day. I was in, I want to say, third grade, maybe, when the towers hit. Yeah. No, fourth. Yeah, fourth grade. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. Like, I could see the tower, the smoke from my elementary school in the Bronx, PS 157, and I could see everything. I'm like, yo, like, this is happening? Like,
No one knew what was happening.
yo.
You know, like I said,
Wow.
people were asking me, like, hey, how did you get here? Because I took the train in.
That's crazy, man. So, for a while, you did coach at St. Ray's. Talk about that.
I did. It was a surreal experience because it was one of those things that made me, it humbled me. It humbled me as a coach because I won one as a city. I won one as a player, and then you win one as a coach with Gavin Grant, Brian Lang, Ricky Torres, you know, Wesley Wicks and those guys, and Rich Jackson. And it's like you win one, it's like, wow, how cool was that? I won one as a player, I won one as a coach.
Oh, yeah, the 04, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's what's up,
So,
man.
and I think that's what helps you at times. Oh, I gotta just check in the front of the Gauchos gym.
Okay.
Just see what's going on. Sorry, Dave.
Nah, it's all good.
I'm gonna take you back inside, but I just now.
Bet. So, I think, when did the Gauchos situation come into play?
Which one? The first one?
Yeah, the first one.
The first one was crazy because this guy Julius Allen tricked me. He said, "Hey,
Julius Allen."
Oh man, that guy, I love him to death. He tricked me because I coached. Think about this. Played at St. Raymond's, won a championship. Coached at St. Raymond's, won a championship. I played at Monroe, won a region. I coached at Monroe, won a region.
Oh.
Actually, got the Nationals.
Oh, that's right. You did coach at Monroe. Kevin Bell played for you.
Kevin Bell, Kingsley Edwards, Ryan Williams.
Wow.
LaShaw Duran. So it was one of those things where you talk about the coaching bug, and Julius Allen, he brought me in. And and think about this team that he had. Ronald Ramon, Sunyata Gaines, Russell Robinson, Curtis Kelly, underclassmen, Todd Gibson. We had another kid from Brooklyn. I think it was Rich. I know James Barrett. Trying to think who else is on that team. That team was low. That's the first Peach Jam.
Wow. Oh,
Julius
2003. Allen. Okay.
So Julius Allen was like, hey, I want you to come and coach this team. And he would always call me coach. And I'm like, I'm not a coach. But he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those guys like Yada, you know, they were fine, and they allowed me to coach because I didn't realize who they were, right? Because I'd been out of Catholic high school, and I always know who the Gauchos were, but like, you know, synonymous, I don't know them, right? Now, guess what? I'm coaching them. So I coached them a little bit. Then Paul Brown says, hey, you know what? How about, you know, you give them a younger team? And I want to say he gave me Edgar, so he gave me Louis Guzman, who was my baby. Yeah, Edgar Sosa, Terrell McKenzie, Kashif Pratt. Those guys carried us because, again, Curtis Kelly was an underclassman playing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him in practice one day, and he got hit, and I think his nose was bleeding. And he said, "I'm not stopping." I said, "He's got a chance to be really good," because we would compete in practice.
Wow.
And then, like I said, you talk about in the program, think about Jesse Sapp, who I had. Jesse Sapp, Wayme Efajuku, Levance Field, Saquon Stones. Like, the Twins coached them.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys in practice, again, Julius would always try to make it like a camp situation.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So we always talked about getting guys better.
Yeah. So, yeah, Cash definitely holds you in high regard, man. You were like the big brother to him, and you still are.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Kashif, I used to pick him up from school when he played with the Lightning in Dana. So it was one of those things. It was one of those things I said, we're going to get him in. And that's what you tried to be to all of them. You tried to be a big brother. You tried to be an uncle. Some of them needed a father figure. Some of them didn't. But you just tried to provide them what they didn't have. Like, I coached Edgar Sosa's brother, Eric, at Monroe.
Wow.
And that's what kind of helped me, coaching him, because I think I coached him 15s or 16s. But, like, in succession, you fail to realize the kids that you coach, the lives that you've been a part of, because it's just that it kind of became what you did.
Yeah, man. So, like, when did Marist College come about?
After I think we went to Italy. I took those guys to Italy, Russell Robinson, Yada, and Matt Brady got the job. And I remember Rob Kennedy said, "Hey, do you want a job?" It was either going to be Iona or Marist. And Matt Brady interviewed me downtown, TGI Fridays across the street from the Garden. And he said, either you're going to get the job or someone else. It was really simple. And
He just offered it up just like that.
Well, it was if John Prelo didn't take it, then I would get it. He said he was much better than me, and I it was night and day. So I was like, okay, I didn't know who he was, but John Prelo was a really good player at Fordham. Now he's head coach of San Jose State.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things. I got the job at Marist. Had no idea what I was doing. I was commuting from Poughkeepsie back and forth every day in the Bronx because I was still trying to be involved with the Gauchos, not realizing when you're a college coach that's it.
Yeah.
Go a year there. And
yeah.
Jared Jordan, Will Whittington. We had a lot of talent, especially at Marist and Matt. I think Coach Brady did an awesome job, but I was so homesick from the standpoint of I felt like I wasn't able to affect lives.
Right.
When you're in college camp, you're dealing with those guys. When you're with the Gauchos, you're dealing from second on up. And it was easy for me to deal with everyone else's problem and not deal with mine. Mm-hmm. So guess what? You had 100 problems to deal with, or 100 situations at the Gauchos. There you had 6 or 7. Because some of those guys were like, they don't know you. They're not really dealing with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. So then you left Marist and you went back to Gauchos?
Yeah, I was offered. I was offered the director's job. Paul Brown had moved on, and I came in and I remember when I left, Kimber and those guys were in 7th grade, and Jordan Theodore. No one realized like his mom is like a mom to me. His brother Kwame, I sent to Pitt-Johnstown.
Wow.
So people don't know that, and guess what? You come back and you got Kimber, Jordan, Truck, Chris Fouch. Duran is a year younger. And that's your core.
The F4L. Talk about that crew.
Hell, we Momo, like, it's just weird, man, because all the guys that you had, Momo and our closeness, tried to bring him over. And I've always said, when people laugh and say, Book started positionless basketball. First of all, I didn't start it. Second of all, the positionless basketball that's been the mainstay of what we've done all our lives. You're in New York City. There are no 7-footers, so you play the best 5. And that's what we did. And our chemistry, again, like I said, went through the roof. And I'm proud that all of those guys graduated college. Mm-hmm. Kevin Phillip, Danny Jennings, Kimber, Jordan, Chris Fouch, Duran. You know, that's been the goal, that those guys, you know, utilize what they've had, man. So that's an honor in and of itself for me. That's probably my biggest honor, that what those guys did academically. Trump.
So, yeah. Talk about those Peach Jam, the 2 years where you guys won Peach Jam.
I'm just telling you, it was one of those things. That's what we set out to do and prepare. Like, you know, the advantage of having a gym, you know, we would practice 4 times a week, but those guys were together. They were a unit. They loved each other, and they competed every single day. Nothing was given to them. Nothing was given to them ever.
So great. I could say this book, besides you guys, Riverside and Milbank, the teams that are sponsored, a lot of them don't really have a gym to call their own, which is crazy.
It's New York City, you know, it's real estate. It's tough to have, you know, it's tough to do it. And that's why, you know, again, when you talk about round ball, just fast forwarded, my goal was to make sure that I afford an opportunity for those kids who didn't have an opportunity this spring, summer, and now fall. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, round ball. Always love that tournament. I couldn't wait to get out of school and come see some games at round ball, man. That was a good thing growing up. I'm happy that you brought it back. We're gonna talk about it a little bit later. But yeah. So after the we're gonna talk about another special person, Chad Babel. So yeah, talk about that first meeting with Chad.
Met him. He was 17 years old. I met him at Iona College, and the first thing he sat down. He said, "Are you Book?" I said, "Yeah." Who are you? I'm Chad Babel. Okay. And he said, "I have your team." What? He said, "Yeah, those guys are playing for me, the New York Storm." I said, "What?"
Wow.
He said, "Yeah, I got Corey Fisher, I got Kimball Walker, I got Justin Burrell. And I said, first of all, you're about their age, number one. Number two, you don't have them. I just got through with them. And number three, face man, he stuck with it. And he said, you know, I want to be a part of the Gauchos. And I said, okay, this is what you do. You meet me on 138th Street between 5th and Lenox at 9 o'clock on Monday. And my son was in kindergarten at St. Mark's.
Shout out to EJ.
he watched EJ kindergarten graduation or a play or something. And he was looking at me, and I was like, I just wanted to see if you could just fucking be quiet for about an hour. And
you had him come all the way out to the hood. You had him come out to the trenches.
I'm in the trenches. And the one thing I saw in Chad was he was going to outwork you. You know, he got himself into a couple of pickles, but he was always going to work, and he was always going to figure something out, and he was always going to offer a solution.
Yeah, I remember them days, man. He was running around with the curly hair, wrestling.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see how Chad has evolved, man. Like, he got about 8 different businesses, including Made Hoops. He's doing big things with Nike, man. That's what's up. Shout out to Chad Babel.
Yeah. So, and like I said, Chad's become like a younger brother to me, especially as you go through stuff, and to watch his rise has been, has been great for me, because it's kind of like, part of his ascent is a part of mine. So, I'm just extremely proud of him.
Yeah, man. So, after the second stint with the Gauchos, you went back to the D1 route again, Xavier. How does that job come about?
You go through a 2-year stretch where you've done a great job, and now the rubber hits the road. You're offered college jobs because guys, they look at your relationships. Sean Miller offers me the job. I then go to USA Basketball Under-19 Olympic Festival, win a gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to leave AAU. Didn't want to leave. And I remember guys like Tony Childs, Chucky Martin, Bruiser Flint saying, you got to go. So I go there. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Two Holloway is out there. And, you know, that's probably one of my favorite. I love that kid. I love that young man. I love him to death. Like, you know, I don't ever want to disrespect him or his parents, but he's like a son to me. So I fight emotions as I talk about that kid because of everything we've been through. And I'm in Cincinnati, and, you know, I get Drew Lavender. Like, I get a freaking McDonald's All-American point guard who listens to me. Him, Stanley Burrell, and we go on a run. We are 30-8, and we're losing Elite Eight to UCLA, Russell Westbrook, and Bamute, Darren Collinson, Kevin Love.
Wow.
And then the next year we come back and you recruit, and then two Holloways on that team. And what bothers me, I think, the most is people think I skip steps, because now you're talking about a four-year run where I won a lot. But I think everyone else thought, like, well, Book's just a recruiter, so I'm now on third base, but now everyone's checking to see if I touch second or first. And now, like I said, think about it. My first year, I go to Elite Eight, 30-8. My second year, we lose in the Sweet 16 to Levance and those guys. So I'm coaching against players I coached. You lose, and now Arizona opens. I never thought we'd go west, and Sean took the job. And you're there, and it's like, I think when we first got there, Sean tried to get his job back at Xavier because he was underdeveloped. You know, Coach Olson, God rest his soul, man. He didn't need a practice facility. He was Coach Olson. So once we got that rolling, I'm just telling you, it was a different level of recruiting. And I always tell people, you never know what it is. You know, when recruiting at Xavier was one thing, right? Because there was a bigger talent pool. When you recruited Arizona, your talent pool, you know, is smaller, and you're facing, you know, it's like an arms race every single year. It is Duke, it's Carolina, it's UCLA, it's Kentucky, it's Kansas. Everybody that you're recruiting, one of those guys is going to be on his list. So, you know, you got to figure out how to get this thing done. And, you know, so you have a lot of success. And I think coaching college basketball at that level for that long, I lost myself. You know, I'm an assistant coach, and people are waiting outside 2 hours, 3 hours just to get my autograph. You know, I walk through the airport, and those guys, like, it's coach, they know who you are. And I lost myself, you know, because that Tyrone Mushat says this all the time. Book, you can't tell anyone you're humble. Someone has to see your humility. Anybody can say you're humble, because I'm humble, and that wasn't the case. You know, I lost myself. I lost myself. Like I said, I'm just, you could have a plane stopped. That's the power of Arizona. You can, you know, this plane to Atlanta, that Delta, you know, flight, whatever, to Atlanta, slow it up.
Wow.
Slow it up.
Talk about coaching Kevin Parham and Momo at Arizona.
Coaching Momo, again, like I said, you talk about a young man that's close to me. He and Kevin, you know, when you have New York City kids, you always want to make sure they're good. Any kid that's in my company, I want to make sure they're good, but especially those two, because I want to make sure I can always come back home. And dealing with those guys, like I said, for Kevin Parham to get his degree, I did my job. You know, I think everyone wants to be in the NBA, but I did my job. You know, Momo left as a sophomore, you know, going into his junior year, and I hated that, because I know, like, that year we lost in Elite Eight, you know, and Momo had 16, 6 assists, no turnovers against Duke. And we happened to beat Duke, and, you know, Kyrie had 30, but it was you know, we had a great team win. So, like, coaching those guys, you know, we always talk about it. I get emotional because I love those kids. I love those young men. And to watch them have children now, to be, you know, uncles and godfathers to their kids, any kid that I coach is tremendous, because I think it shows that you did something pretty good.
So outside of those two guys I named, name some of the NBA players that you coached at Arizona.
DeAndre Ayton, Derek Williams, Larry Markkinen, Solomon Hill, Rondae Hollis Jefferson, Aaron Gordon, Grant Jarrett, Nick Johnson. I think that's it.
Wow, that's big time right there. And they all still show you love to this very day. Yeah, the Stanley.
It's weird that those guys still let me coach them. It's weird. You know, I FaceTime them and what's up, Unc? You know, like, you know, one of them, what's up, Poppy? And it's funny because I'm like, they'll know I'm calling for something. You know, they'll know, like, I'm calling for something. So.
Yeah. No, that's big right there. Talk about, you know, just the thrill of coaching in the NCAA tournament.
It's no feeling like it. It's no feeling like it. It's the ultimate one and done. You know, unlike the you know, the NBA playoffs, you know, best 3 out of 5 series. No, you have to be on that day, and it's the ultimate. You know, it's the ultimate rush. It's the, you know, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. It's nothing like that feeling to advance, survive and advance.
Nah, but yeah, you've been through a lot of highs in your life, and you've also been through many lows. So, you know, September 26, 2017, like, that was a day like no other. Unfortunately, something traumatic happened to you that day. Like, take me back to that day. Like, you know,
6 a.m. FBI. It's 8 agents. I think either 6 or 8 agents. They have a battering ram. They're about to come through my door. My son's up. My dog's barking, and it's you know, they have their guns. I'm in I'm in my shirt and some shorts, and it's just a very weird. It's a bad scene, and I hear FBI, and I'm thinking, like, no way in the world that happened, and I'm still trying to quantify what is going on. And as that day, it's a day of infamy, because for me it changed my life for the absolute worst at that time, because from then to now, you still, it's a level of trauma that you deal with trying to pick your life back up. And it's so traumatic because you go from being on top of the world to now being, you know, in one night or one morning, you go from everyone loving you to everyone hating you. You know, it's I don't know if you guys saw the last Batman movie where he went from the hero to the villain.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And, you know, so everything's taken away from you. You lose your job, you lose your career, you lose your house, you lose your family, you know, and it's like, what happened to you? Damn. And he said, I tried to pay a kid, and it's like, damn, I didn't do that. But no matter what you say, it's what can be proven. So, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, it humbles you. It brought me back to my core. So that's that.
So, you know, when you unfortunately had to do your 3 months while you were in prison, like, what was your thought process? Like, did you feel like, when I get out of here, like, I'm gonna do the best to the best of my ability, you know?
You know what I'm saying? I just wanted out. I wanted to be out.
Yeah.
I wanted to be out.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew. Like, did you ever think about what you would do when you got home?
Thought about it. You know, you think about so much because you have time on your hands.
Yeah.
You know, so then that was the first time I ever been confined, you know, in my life. And like I said, man, Otisville Correctional Facility, you know, like I said, the camp, you know, because I got that, oh, you were in camp. And I said, you know, I was, but, you know, count time happened across the country. I had count time. I couldn't leave. You know, you talk about the torment of, oh, well, you're in the camp. I can't leave and come back.
Yeah. That ain't no camp.
Lights go out across the country. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
again, you know, you talk about trauma, man. You dealing, you know, you going to jail in your 40s, stuff.
Yeah, man. Like, when you got home, Ross, shout out to Ross, he came to get you. I know you was happy that day.
Yeah, one of that's that's other than watching my son be born, there was no better feeling in the world.
So like after you came home, like I know it was tough. You said that you battled depression. Like how's everything mental? Like how's your mental health now?
You still battle depression. That's not something that's not something that stops overnight. You battle it and you find a way to address it, and then say, you know what, hey, I need help, and then and then you try to get the help. But part of it, especially for Black men, we don't address mental health. It's like, listen, just go in the barbershop, discuss it, and that's it. Or hey, don't you dare tell your problems. And for a very long time, I was battling this, and I had to address it.
Yeah. Like so now, like when people are interviewing you, and I saw the recent article in the Daily News that kind of disturbed me. Like it was a well-written article, but it was like the headline, like book is struggling. I didn't really agree with that. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't the best thing to write out. My article was if I had to write an article about you, it would be more like comeback season.
Yeah, I think sometimes, the truth of the matter, when you talk about struggle, the mental struggle, as well as the physical struggle of what you have to deal with, because, I went from a certain situation back to back to where I started. And it's difficult, because again, a lot of people that go through what I went through would, would go a lot of different routes, which I talked about, again, contemplation of suicide is one of those things where it's like that guy, yeah, because you want the pain to end. You want it to end. You just want all this stuff that's going on because you have no idea. And it's like, man, God, can you help me? Can you take me someplace? And it's like what happens is so many other things are on your mind.
As you've already reiterated, and as I've known personally for years, all you've done is try to help the youth. And doing that in college basketball is sometimes really impossible because there's a lot of restrictions, a lot of red tape involved. Like I know that was hard for you during your coaching tenure. Like I read an article a couple years ago from the Undefeated that said that whenever there's a situation like yours, like the Black coaches are always the first ones to go down. Do you feel like it's always hard for a Black coach to make it in college basketball?
I feel like that, there's certain things, certain pitfalls that we're set up for. If there's an issue, go deal with the kid. If there's a issue, an administration, the things that you deal for, because you're on the front line. And again, I was always on the front line when I'm dealing with kids, dealing with parents. Mm-hmm. So, there are going to be some pitfalls that you got to deal with.
So you're now on stint number 3 with the Gauchos. Like, how does it feel to be back at a place that you love?
A little depressing, because it's like, again, I shouldn't be back here in this capacity, but I am. So now you give everything that you have to these kids. You give everything you have to your staff. And my goal is I want to help, these young coaches become high school coaches, become college coaches. I want to help these guys I want to help the kids get to high school and get to college. And if there's a pro in here, if God blesses them with the ability to get there, I want to help them get there.
Honestly, Book, I guess I look at it like this. Fate brought you back to, something good, something pure, something special. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you lost a lot, but you gained a lot too. And you gained it in being back to be able to coach these kids. Like, I'll see you with the middle school kid, and I seem like you have a lot of joy with them.
Yeah, that's, again, like I said, we have practice tonight, so. They're Book's babies. I love them. They crazy.
One of the kids that I love that you coach currently, Jamel Melmel Thomas. I love that kid, man.
I love Melmo. him, Ty Turnage, Brandon Stores, you know, Eric, Amel, like those are my babies, and I love them. You know, I love them. And but they spend a lot of time with me, so they deal with me. So I love them.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to see.
Great support, you know, Elijah. You know, like I said, man, you know, Mitch has been awesome. But like I said, man, it's one of those things where, you know, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you.
I can't wait to see those guys in high school. Normally, you everybody knows I don't deal with middle school, but for Ty and Mel, I might make an exception and come check them out in a couple of games.
You're more than welcome. We practice every Sunday and Monday at 6, so we'd love to see you.
All right, cool. So, aside from the Gauchos, you got some other things going on. Silver Waves Media. How did that come about?
Ryan Silver just was cool, man. Reached out and you know, offered me, you know, a platform, and that's that. So, you know, Ryan, shout out to Ryan. Like I said, this dude's willing to take a shot with me, take a shot on me.
So you're doing a podcast now?
I'm supposed to be doing a podcast, but every time my podcast is happening, I either have a practice or game. So I'm my next one I'm going to be prepared for.
So what's the name of it so everybody can look out for it?
It's going to be The Open Book.
I like that title. The Open Book. Hopefully I could be a guest on it someday.
I'd love for you to be a guest on it.
You on mine, so I got to be on your podcast too.
Exactly.
Nah, man, but that's big right there. Shout outs to Silver Wave Media and Ryan Silver of West Coast Elite, man. That's real big right there.
So,
but yeah, man. Yeah, man. So let's talk about how do you feel? Like, well, you already asked. Like, do you miss coaching in college? A little
I do.
bit?
Yeah, you know, I miss the camaraderie. You know, there's so much that there's so much that you do in a day, and you know, it becomes regiment. You know, and sometimes the level, you know, you start to miss these Friday morning workouts. You know, traveling to a game, and you know, you play Thursday, Saturday. You do miss it because you did it for so long, and you miss the camaraderie of like it being intimate, a close group. You know, you miss getting a guy ready for draft. You miss, you know, telling the guy like, hey, you know, it may be your time to leave, or hey, you know what, let's look at the information from the underclassmen advisory board. You know, you do miss it, man. And like I said, I had prayed to God that maybe one day I coach college again, and you know, whether He allows that to happen or not, you know, that's totally up to God. And like I said, just the NCAA, and but you miss it, especially something you've done for so long, and that you've done at a high level.
That's big. So this is one of the questions that I love to ask my guests before I get to the final question. If you could go back to 1991, what would you tell Book at 18 as he's in his senior year at St. Ray's, navigating through the pitfalls of Clay Avenue and coming of age in a cruel world?
Be patient, trust your gut, trust your heart. Don't speed up your process. Real simple. Believe in love.
Believe in love. I like that, man. Final question. What's next in the future for Emmanuel Book Richardson?
Trying to get this program back to its rightful place in terms of being the lead in the country. And I think for me, you know, would love an opportunity to coach again at any level, and really having an opportunity to continue to teach and keep giving back to the youth. That's what this is for me.
Well, thank you for coming on to share your testimony. I've been waiting to do this for a year. Everybody knows that. And I wish you and the Gauchos and everything you're doing with Silver Waves Media, nothing but the best moving forward.
Appreciate you, family. Come on. Like I said, you're always welcome. Round ball playoffs is this week. You know, actually, it's the championship game this weekend, so you need to get here.
Indeed. Well, everybody, this is episode 86 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to my guy, Emmanuel Book Richardson, for coming on to share his story. For those of you guys from 117th Street, Queens, Brooklyn, Clay Avenue in the Bronx, numerous locations that he lived in as a youth, St. Ray's, Arizona, Xavier, Riverside Church, Gauchos, and so on and so on. For those that know and love and support Book, check out this episode. Stay blessed, stay safe. Peace.
Peace.